Is the fabulous Sara Deacon. Welcome, Sara.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to introduce you because people are going to be hearing a lot from you, especially at the event coming up. Before we even jump into that, I'm just going to have you go ahead and introduce yourself and what you do.
Okay, well, I am a speaker and a coach. I am known as the adulting coach. So I get to help teens and young adults figure out for themselves who they want to be when they grow up so they can have the courage to suck at something new, confidently decide how they want to live their own lives, and adult successfully.
I
That's me
love
in a
it.
nutshell.
I love that. And I think there's a big population I think that really needs you. And I wish I would have had someone like you kind of in my toolbox when I
hmm
left high school because I didn't know what the heck I want to do. College really wasn't in my future,
Yeah.
and I didn't know what direction to go. So I worked like three jobs at one time
Mhm.
and, you know,
Yeah. And the thing is, too, even for me, as the last people I wanted to go to for advice were my parents because I didn't want to be them. I didn't want to turn into them. I didn't want to do what they were doing. And
right.
I had a lot of fear about approaching teachers or guidance people or mentors or whatever because I felt like they had their own agenda too. So it was
Yeah.
really hard to figure out what I wanted to do or who I wanted to become because I'm consulting the experts in my world who were just as lost and confused as I was. So
Yeah.
it really was like the blind leading the blind, and not to say that they didn't have their own, ambitions and path, because they did. They just weren't mine. And so we were just kind of trying to figure it out together. And I am really proud of a lot of the friends that I've seen do awesome things in their life. I'm proud of myself for where I've gotten to just after fumbling around. And I know that it is really hard and discouraging to kind of feel that lack of direction and focus.
Yeah. I definitely felt that because I had parents who didn't believe in college. So they're like, "No, you're not going to college. You don't need it. We're not spending the money. You're just going to work. You work your 40 hours, you do your time, and that's what life is." I didn't have anybody in the background saying, "Well, we get that, but there are opportunities where maybe I could have, maybe taken a business class or just anything that I could have done." But I didn't have anybody telling me that. And then even like you said, the
Right,
school
giving you the
guidance.
permission to explore and figure
Right,
out what was right for you.
right. And the guidance counselor basically, like, he was great, but it was, "Oh, you have to go to college. Like, you need to do this."
Yeah,
And I'm
there
like,
are a
"No, my
lot of
parents aren't
times
going to let me."
push into graduation, push into college, push into,
Yeah.
get that coursework done or check all the boxes along the way, or yeah, and they, so it can
Yeah.
feel like have their own agenda again, even if it's a college counselor or something like that, where they're looking for those stats about placement or graduation rates or whatever. Like that can feel like an agenda. And I know plenty of college counselors and high school counselors they're not that. They do genuinely want to help the students. The students don't always
Yeah.
feel that way, because they're coming in with their own stories about stuff. So having somebody neutral and independent who's actually just there for you. I don't care whether my clients go to college or not. I don't care what they major in. I
Right.
don't care what their grades are. I don't care what job they get. I want to see where their brilliance shines and help them see it too, so that they can connect some dots for themselves and then
Yeah.
go on and do brilliant
Yeah.
things, whatever those things are.
And it's interesting because I knew there was something in me even back then, but I didn't have anyone that I could go to because I didn't understand like what it was I wanted to do. And even after the high school point, I worked three jobs, even when I narrowed it down to like one factory job for a while. And then I moved into like healthcare with no college under my belt. But there was still a part of me that was like, there's something more. I don't know what to do with
Right.
whatever the creative side of me. And there was
hmm
nobody around back then to really say, okay, well, what are you good at? Like what kind of like creates that spark in you, you know?
hmm Yeah, and I mean,
So
and I think we get there, we hit those points in in our adult lives too, in business and growing our own thing or pursuing our passions, we get that same way. Like, where do I focus? Where are my strengths? And that's why doing it all on our own is like, it's not okay. We need
Right.
each other.
Yes.
We need people around us to rally and see what we see our blind spots with it. So even, yeah, even in business and things like that, I know it took me a while to kind of land here and do what I'm doing now. And again, like, other people are seeing me light up and I'm like, really, I never thought I would be doing this. And now that I am, I love it. And I'm like, well, let me do more. How do I do more? Like,
Right.
let's go. Cause as a coach, I feel like to tie it back into my role at Warrior, as a coach, I feel like my job is to help other people. And that's part of my purpose here. And yes, it's also to shine myself. But as a coach, it's like, where are you? And there's enough light. So when thinking about September, I'm just so excited because you have some fantastic people coming in to be on that stage. I am humbled and excited to be sharing that space because they are brilliant and amazing. And I just can't wait to just light them up and just see them like, like send ripples of goodness through that whole room. Like, so I'm super excited. And
Well, what's
yeah,
cool,
and it ties in really well with what I do in my day job.
yeah, exactly. And I want to jump into like the obstacles you face and the things that you've had to overcome. But before we do that, I just want to mention real quick is you basically were almost an adult. You don't realize this maybe, but you were almost like an adulting coach to me when you came to me with that email, like, Wendy, I just want to throw this at you, but what if you had an MC for your event? That was like an adulting moment where you kind of gave me permission to be like, I need to step back a little bit and
You
not
don't have
do
to
all
do
the
all the
things.
things on your own.
Right. Yeah. And so it was that moment where like I just felt this huge weight go off my shoulders, like,
Mm,
oh my gosh, I can give this piece to you. And it allows me then to shine in the areas that I
right.
can. And it
And
was
bring
just,
out your beautiful creativity and sparkle to the event and everything. Yes,
yeah. And then getting
sure.
to, yeah,
Yeah.
and then because I've gotten to know you a bit, since the last Warrior, I already knew your personality. I'd follow you on TikTok already. I'm like, yeah, she's going to be the MC that we need for this event because you've got that hype,
Oh, I,
And so
I bring the fun, baby.
I love it. So let's talk about let's talk some of the challenges and obstacles you've had to conquer to get to where you're at now, because obviously we know entrepreneurship is not, woo, everything's easy sailing and comes quickly and easily to us. So let's talk up a little bit about that. What's your journey been like?
Peaks and valleys, baby. It
Yeah.
it has been a challenge and something that I have worked on even up to very recently and continuing to work on is my personal expression and finding my voice and my creativity and what that looks like to take up space with it, because
Yeah.
I felt like there's something, and it's not explicit. I don't have a huge like trauma background or anything like that. I feel like I'm like normal. And I still, have struggled with using my voice and expressing myself. And I've played in the art world, arts and crafts and things like that, where there was always that voice, whoever's it was, but we've all heard it, where you can't make a living as an artist.
Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't pursue it because at every turn I felt like this was not possible creative, and I had ambitions of doing theater and acting, and then I'm like, I am not good enough.
Oh no.
Like, it's very, very competitive, especially and in high school and college and stuff. I'm like, there's no way. And if I'm grateful that I learned that and was self-aware enough to to be okay with that, because there was so many other things that I wanted to do. And I always kind of felt
Right.
like that was wrong, that I had this like wide net of interests and I just wanted to
Mm.
do all the things and I just moved from thing to thing to thing. And as I realized that there's not anything wrong with that. Like, it's okay that I like to do a variety of things and have a
Right.
wide range of interests. But a lot of times you're made to feel like you need to specialize. If you're not the expert in it, then you have no business talking about it. Well,
Yeah.
then what conversations are we even having if nobody's an expert unless you have like
Right.
letters after your name or like a white coat or whatever. Like, we all have something to add to the conversation and
Yes.
everybody's voice matters. That's something that I've dealt with, um, just as far as performance, as far as getting myself on stage, as far as actually offering knowledge and tools and resources to other people, is actually like realizing that I do have this base. I am an expert in what I know.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't look traditional or
Right.
whatever stories we create about what an expert looks like, right? I have the
Right.
experience. I have a lot in my background to from, and the learning and the self-awareness that came from it. I do talk about how my family had to move back in with our parents when we were in our 30s because things did not work out according to plan. So that was one
Yeah.
challenge that turned around
Yeah.
into an opportunity to create my own path, do things my own way, and really figure out what that was. And it was messy and it was not fun. And I don't
Right.
recommend it. So part of what I offer, what I do is like, how do we take those messy bits, those setbacks, or those like so-called failures, and learn from them, and not make that valley so
Right.
deep or so long. Like, let's make it shorter. Let's get out of it quicker.
Right.
Because we're all going to face challenges, but we need to have the resilience and have the self-awareness and have the tools and have the people around us to help us through it and overcome it.
Oh,
It's a
yeah.
really long answer and several different
That's
directions
all
that
right.
went in for the challenges and everything. And that's something that really did connect me a lot with the speakers at last year's Warrior. Was they talked about that, the dip, the valley, the
Yeah.
hard stuff that you have to go through, and you can just go through it,
Yep.
or you can go through it and grow through it.
Yeah, I love that.
And it's always a choice, and it's always our choice.
Well, and it's so interesting what you were describing too. It's like that's an imposter syndrome where no matter what arena we're looking at, and I feel like I love people like you who are multifaceted, right? Because everyone wants us to niche down, niche down, niche down, which is great. Like that's a business tool to find your lane and niche down and find that ideal client, which is wonderful. But
Mhm.
when you're multifaceted like you are, those are just other areas we can tap into to help us, become who we're becoming, to help other people become who they're becoming. And I feel like I'm talking in
Yeah,
circles
and
with
there's
that,
room
but
for all of us.
right. And I like somebody who's got the experience behind their belt more than the letters behind their name, because I know you've been there. And I have a family member who had to go through rehab for alcoholism. And he told me, he's like, my daughter she went through college to be a psychologist through psychology. And she's getting her master's with a minor in drug and alcohol abuse. Okay. But the interesting is she doesn't use any of that. She never has. So my family member who went through the rehab said, I don't mean any disrespect, but I could never work with her to help me with my abuse issues because she doesn't know where I'm coming from. You can take all the schooling you want, but she doesn't relate. Whereas opposed to the person
Mhm.
who he did go to afterwards had been through it. They
Yeah.
they had abuse issues and they had, the what word am I thinking of? The addict. and they went through
Yeah,
that. And so he's like,
right.
they
They
got
have
it.
that firsthand
Yeah. And he's like, no,
experience from, even if it's not the same, it's a
right,
related and relatable enough. And
right,
it's interesting because I'm sure your daughter, as she's going to school, is probably like,
right,
well, what am I doing here? I've never been an addict. Why am I doing this? Right? She probably has the same imposter syndrome, because that's
right,
like what I've experienced too. Is like, well, I don't have a degree in business. I never went to school for marketing,
right,
whatever. And I'm like, I had to learn it because I started a business.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting.
Yeah, and so even with my daughter, she works at an inpatient I mean, that was just her minor was the drug, but it was a great point he made to me, like, just because somebody has, the degree and they have all the knowledge, there's nothing to say that they don't have the knowledge, but there's
Yeah.
that relatability factor that comes in for
Mhm.
people who have been there. And that's what you provide is, hey, I've been there. So, and I get where the
Mhm.
imposter syndrome keeps up. I do the same thing. Yeah, I think we all go
Yeah.
through that and it just makes us all, I think, more relatable in that way.
Right,
You know?
right. You have to have enough training to know what you
Right.
know and know what you don't know, and enough experience for the same.
R right, it's that exactly,
Yeah,
it's
and
training.
I've always been an empath. I've always noticed, what people seem to be good at or people need to connect with, or, I've always just sort of seen that stuff.
Yeah,
And that's not something that you can really, like, train,
right,
is empathy. I mean, you can to a certain extent, but unless you're really, really consistent and really feel it, like,
yeah,
people don't know.
and
And I heard a great podcast who, somebody was talking about how that led to that feeling of, like I was talking about before, of not, like, my voice not mattering or me not mattering as much, was because
yeah,
I'm an empath and I can see and just act on what other people need, but there
yep,
wasn't a lot of people around me who could do that for me, who saw me that way. So it
oh,
was like,
wow,
well, when I'm feeling bad, then who's noticing me? And I had, my mother was great at it, at certain points and everything like that too. And it is just, it's a perspective shift, realizing that not everybody sees people like that, like I do.
right,
And not everybody experiences energy like I do. And not everybody is able to connect like I do. And that's
yeah,
really
it's a gift.
fascinating and sometimes eye-opening for me when I realize and wake up to it, because I assume that people said to a point that we have to remember to take a step back and, oh wait, this person is not where I'm at and they need something else. And they, um,
Right,
you know, different things. And usually I'm, again, intuitive enough that I can kind of connect those dots. Okay, where did I lose somebody? What do they need? Here it is. Let's
it's a
go.
gift, and
Yeah.
I've seen you in action with that actually because, Sarah and I are part of the, same community, we both have the same coach, and in that community, sometimes somebody's really struggling. And I can always see when Sarah comes on camera then and is giving it advice, you can tell that you are basically harnessing that emotion of what that person was talking about. Cause I could see you get teary eyed just trying to give them encouragement. Like I can feel that you are embracing that exactly what they're feeling. Like you can see it right through the camera that you're trying not to cry, but and like, holy God, like she really feels exactly what that person's going through.
Oh
And
my god.
it's
I've been that person several times.
right.
I've been that. Yeah. I know the feeling. I know. I've told
Yeah.
myself the same stories.
Yeah. But
And
it's a gift.
somebody else, and I, again, like, being part of that group or idea collective, or the other groups, showing up and reaching out to the people
Yeah.
who know, the people who are not in it in the valley right now. Like, we all have to breathe at different times, right? From choir, everybody
Yeah.
has to breathe at a different time. And so if I need to take a breath, I know there's somebody else still singing. So, like, we can all work together.
I love that analogy because you don't see a whole choir all go at the same time.
Unless it's built into the music, and sometimes it is. Like, you have to breathe at that time. But otherwise, if those long notes, you can't all breathe at the same time because otherwise you
Right,
can't hold the note.
right? So that's kind of a great segue then. So
Yeah.
into the Warrior and Chain event. Obviously, you were there last year for the first time. It was your first Warrior experience. And being in that space when you do feel a lot of energy, what was that like for you?
Um, Man, I will say this. There was there were several things that day that were competing for my time.
Okay.
And I chose Warrior because I your marketing was brilliant and I felt already. And
Thanks.
and then when I got the chance to go, I was like, well, yeah, I'm going, no question. Even though I had paid for some other event, I didn't go.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, well, thank
I
you.
had paid for my high school reunion. And so I had bought tickets for my high school reunion. And I was gonna like, it was kind of on the way back or whatever. Like I could, I was going late or whatever. So I was like, oh well, I'll just leave at dinner time and then I'll go to the reunion. And I was like, no. I stayed at Warrior. I was like, nope, this is what I need. Okay. And it was, just I knew some people in the room, but the event deepened those connections.
Oh, good.
It connected us on a different level. The networking, so whatever it didn't feel like networking. It was this like social time and
Yeah.
a more of a befriending and connecting time. Hello, I hired Alexis as my coach because she spoke so phenomenally at your event.
Yeah.
We've since gotten some behind the scenes on that, which is awesome also in a
Yeah.
whole weird way. And I think that's, it's just a testament to what you are able to see and envision for the community you want to build and the people you want to surround yourself with. And I
Right.
know we've talked about it before about the challenges of being in a room with a ton of other women
Yeah.
because women don't always treat each other the nicest.
True.
And we've both had experiences about that.
Mhm. Yeah. So, yeah,
And it was not like those experiences at all what you did.
and that's the goal. We don't want it's not
Right,
there's no
right.
competition
It's
mindset.
to change right, it's to change the story.
Yeah. Yeah. And
It's to change the stories we tell about ourselves as female entrepreneurs and ourselves as women
right.
and ourselves as a community of women.
Yeah.
And finding and cultivating and nurturing those connections with people who are really interested in collaboration over
Yeah.
competition and seeing each other succeed and seeing each other win and knowing that we have this abundance of winning,
Yeah.
whatever that, because all our versions of winning look different.
Exactly.
So there's no competition because every one of us has our own way to
Yeah.
grow, to bloom, to shine, to sparkle, whatever that is. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing.
And I something you said when you did a video testimonial after last year's event, there was something you said that really struck me, and I'm like, "She gets it." Because it wasn't like when you leave an event, you're like, "No, that's
I don't
huge
remember
high,"
what
you're
this
like, "Way up here." Yeah, it was more of this quietness, assured quietness that you left with. I'm like, "That's it. That's what we want,"
Yeah.
because I think you can grow more from there than from the high, and then you drop.
Right, because you can forget all of those
Yeah.
hype things.
Yeah.
And what really sticks is those moments where you feel seen and you feel like you're not alone.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's again, like even going back to being an empath and oh God, feeling seen is so scary because I'm the one that sees. Don't
Right.
look at me. I'm the one that sees. Like
Yep.
that's really scary.
Yeah.
And it's what we long for. Like it's what we need to connect and to really feel deeply related to somebody in relationship.
Yeah.
And oh, it's terrifying.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the
To
head.
be able to be seen and valued and held and appreciated in that kind of really vulnerable and raw setting. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, worth its weight in gold, diamonds, whatever. Like it is, yes, and be a part of it. Ooh, I'm so excited.
I can't wait. I can't wait to have him up on that stage because I see that that gift, that power that you have inside of you to do exactly that, to get on stage and kind of, you're in the spotlight too, but I know your personality. You want everyone else to shine. And so by using what you have, your gifts and your talents and all that to do that, I'm just so excited to have you on that stage
Yeah,
and do that with us. And yeah, it's wonderful.
same.
So real quick, let's talk about where you're at now and what programs or services you have available if people are interested in how they can connect with you and get more from what you offer.
Yeah, I have some stuff going on. I'm doing some speaking, both in person locally and virtual. I'm
Cool.
actually starting to speak to more women's groups about a topic that just is interesting to me as I've grown my business and is not necessarily related to raising teenagers, except for the fact that there are a certain percentage of entrepreneurs who are also in the thick of raising. I'll say that. Um, so speaking has been a big thing. So anyone, needing a fun speaker, thinks I
Mhm.
might be a fit, that's cool. The main thing that I'm offering is the one-on-one connection with me, the adult session, which is my intro session. We do some coaching, we do some, learning about who you are, where you're at, if you are raising a teenager, if you are a, young person kind of looking for what's next to get started. I again, we all are going through something.
Yeah.
And I love to connect with people. So the adult successfully strategy session is awesome. I've had you know people from high school age on up to nearing retirement age reach out for me for that. So
Oh wow,
that
that's
is
cool.
at saradeacon.com/hello. And that's the direct link to the calendar and the little description about the session. But you can visit my website at saradeacon.com to get to know me. Stalk me on social at Sara Deacon Coach, like Wendy does.
Yep.
And and that's the main thing, and that's gonna is for the foreseeable future that strategy session. That's the best way to start working with me. You can always join my email. I've been told that those are fun too. That's another way for me to express myself creatively is through my newsletter because that's just
Yeah.
what we got. So.
Well, it's a great way for them to get to know you too. Having
Mhm.
newsletters and stuff. Those are important to know because we relate to people. And that's a great way to get
Mhm.
to know Sarah. So make sure you go to Sarah's website, saradeacon.com, or to book the strategy session at saradeacon.com/hello. I love that. To book your strategy session. If you want to see her at Warrior, she's our MC extraordinaire this year. Want to see her
I
up
got
on stage,
plans.
and she's our hype girl. We got some cool
Oh,
stuff
we're gonna
planned for
make
the
it
Warrior.
beautiful. It's gonna be
It's
awesome.
it's going to be a lot of fun. I definitely have something new, which actually after this live I need to tell you about too, because something cool is going to be happening, brand new. Just kind of talked to somebody yesterday, and I think it's going to work out. So something really cool will happen for entertainment.
Yay.
And you get your tickets at warriorunchainedlive.com. They're only $97. To me, it's a steal.
Oh
When
my
you look at
gosh.
other events going on, I mean, they're always in the hundreds because it includes meals and fun and everything you can imagine. So $97 for general admission. That's for Saturday all day and Sunday. And then you can upgrade to VIP. Those are 167. Again, a steal. We've got Pat Miller from the Idea Collective coming in to speak. We've got Susie Moon with her comedy, routine. I'm really excited for that. She's with Panty Liner Productions. Pretty fun. So it kind of shows her personality. Yeah, so warriorunchainedlive.com. And we'll put Sarah's link in the comments so you can connect with her as well and get to know Sarah some more and book that strategy session. Thank you so much for coming on today, Sarah.
Thanks for having me, Wendy. It's funny because like I had an idea of like what I was going to talk about or what you were going to ask me, and I'm like, I didn't say much of anything that I had an idea of. So I love it when it just kind of
Good flow, good flow.
goes. For having me, and thank you for bearing with me.
Awesome.
following
Thanks.
following my breadcrumb trails all over town.
That's why we get along well, because that's where I always do that too. I'm like, I'm gonna say this, this, and this, and then I say none of that. So I get it.
I mean,
Awesome.
it's related to what I thought I would probably say, but yeah.
Right. Cool. Well, for
Yeah.
everybody else, make sure you get your tickets, warriorunchainedlive.com, and we will say goodbye. And Sarah, if you can hang out for just a second after we end the live stream, I'll give you the deets.